Hi, Marty Duda here with another 13th Floor Music Talk interview. Today I speak with Parton of The Go team about their new album Get Up Sequences Part 1. Ian and I go deep into the making of the Go team music as he reveals how he transforms samples into songs and his obsession with melody. Ian also touches on the hearing disease that he battled while making this record. From what I understand, this record took several years to put together. So with various obstacles along the way. Is that correct?
Well, every Go team record, there is always about 3 or 4 year gap for some reason. I find it hard to kind of get that number down. I don't know why. It just happens to be that way. Obviously, there's something about the process which is long. I kind of build up in layers. So I kind of write the songs, do the bass, do the drums, do the guitar. So we don't all get together in a room and do it. So that's kind of quite a painstaking process, Plus, I kind of, I spend months and maybe years just like listening to records and recording little ideas. So that's the first process of any record, is just listening, and singing into my phone and hoarding these little ideas and then trying them out and, oh, that bit there's good. So, okay, that's the chorus. So now I need a verse. So I'll try different things next to it. And every song has about sort of 6 ideas in it. I don't like songs which are just like one thing. So
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah, so it's almost like every song's a greatest hits almost.
That's one way to look at it.
I never write a song from start to finish, hardly ever anyway. It's always let me try this next to that. And it kind of grows out.
So what kind of records did you listen to pick and kind of pick apart to make what we end up here on this record?
I mean, I worked my way through lots of stuff, lots of African things, and some of the songs are kind of a direct effect of listening to that. Say Cookie Scene was a direct effect of this kalimba pattern that happened in African song. That didn't sound exactly the same, but, I swapped it for a flute and it became this new thing. So the process of listening almost kind of limbers your brain up and you kind of start generating these ideas and it stops the whole kind of writer's block kind of thing where you're just sitting in a room with a guitar going, oh, fuck, what shall I do? So that's my way of doing it anyway,
And that's a relatively unique way of writing music and creating music. Did you come up with that idea of your own, or were you inspired by someone else?
I mean, I think it's because we're often use samples, but I increasingly try not to sort of lean on the sample as the song, if you know what I mean, which often sampling gets a bad name because of that. Somebody will get a wicked song, put a beat under it and call it their own, which isn't my thing. So I much prefer the idea of using samples like an instrument almost, And sometimes I'll even build a song chord by chord out of chords from various places, So I like that idea of making it quite sort of choppy and jerky and channel hoppy, But yeah, it just makes sense, So I have like a master file of all of my best ideas in it, and all these chords arranged by chord, all the G's,
all the G's. I just did an interview with somebody who has an album with something in A minor or A major, and all the songs on the EP were in A minor or A major, whatever it was. And I thought, that's one way to do it, I guess. So at what point do you bring the rest of the band in and say, okay, here we go?
When it's all locked down, really. Yeah. And I think 90% of the work is the songwriting, I think and often the thing that people speak less frequently about with the Go team is the actual sort of songwriting and melodies. And I'm obsessed with melody. That's my big thing. And hooks and finding these really rare, and it is a rare, they are really rare things, good melodies for me. I think of it as almost like mining or fishing or something, and it's I could go like a month and not come up with anything good, those every year they get rarer because all the ideas are being used up and stuff. So that's what keeps me going, is that quest for the ultimate melody. So
I remember, because I'm much older than you, and I remember discussions about the Beatles and their songwriting and how could they write anymore? Everything's been written at that point. And this would have been like 66, you know, they still had Sgt. Pepper ahead of them. But, you know, just
some days it feels like everything's been done. It really does, you know.
Yeah.
There's only sort of 12 notes in existence. And then some days it feels like that, you know. But other days kind of pours out of you and you generate loads of stuff. And it's a funny thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Very
Melody is so elusive and no one's ever kind of cracked the code, you know, what catchiness is and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me going. Rather, people might imagine that the Go team's kind of, you know, getting a sample, putting a siren and some double Dutch chants on it and calling it a song, but it's much more classic sort of songwriting, kind of process, you know what I mean? And I love like the kind of the brill building idea of the perfect pop song, you know, in a way. In a way, I'm kind of conflicted all the time, you know. In some ways, I'm interested in pop music, but in other ways, I'm not. And you know, a song's got to do so much. It's got to be experimental and weird and original and uniquely Go teamy and catchy and all these kind of things, you know.
Right, because there seems to be kind of a dichotomy going on between kind of nostalgia and kind of harking back to what has happened before, and also a want or a need to progress forward. Is that kind of what you're battling with?
Yeah, I never actively use words like nostalgia or retro or kitsch or anything like that. For me, it's genuinely all the things I've loved throughout my life, you know. Right. And I think of it more like sort of pick and mix. I'm kind of grabbing things across time, you know, which could be 80s electro or 60s girl groups or Charlie Brown or whatever, you know. So, yeah, I think of it almost like your life flashing before your eyes and you're kind of imagining all these things you've always loved, you know, rather than, hey, let me try and sound like a 60s band, you know. I think hopefully it does. There is some sort of modern dimension to it, and the fact that, you know, when the Go team first started, it was quite rare for people to be into lots of things, you know. It was people sort of stayed in their genres a bit more. But I think now, if you ask someone what they like, they'll say, "Oh, I like everything," you know.
They do. That seems to be the generic answer now.
Yeah, and
which doesn't really tell you anything.
Not always for the best as well, you know. I like specifics. I like Shirley Ellis. I like the Meters. You know what I mean? I don't like the funk, because funk can be the worst music or the best music ever made. You know what I mean? Or,
sure.
Same with soul, or, you know. So I like specifics and stuff. You know. Yeah.
Well, touching on a particular track or two, one of the ones that comes to mind as you're talking is "Pow," which has that kind of a break it down kind of thing and a kind of hip hoppy thing going on, and some funk going on. So, where did that come from? What inspired that?
Well, the kickoff of that was actually a sample. That sample was like the opening few bars from a quite obscure sort of 60s psych song. So I kind of looped that and then put that drum pattern, and the bass line kind of seemed to follow it.
Right.
60s kind of rolling kind of thing.
Yep.
So it kind of lent itself. That was the kind of the kickoff, and then I struggled for quite a long time actually trying to sort of flesh it out and put in these different sections, and, you know, things like Curtis Mayfield,
right?
Quite an for the chorus, and then the chorus, even with the sort of bridge bit, the sort of violin mellotron violin bit, that was quite sort of, yeah, Curtis Mayfield kind of inspired as well, you know.
Yeah.
And mixed with that, the old school kind of rappy type thing from Ninja, and yeah.
Right. And there's a video that goes along with that. And you mentioned you're kind of not really like the idea of retro, but I noticed that the video is kind of in 4:3 mode rather than 16:9. You're obviously trying to. How much of that is you?
Well, that's this fella called James Slater, who's made lots of the Go Team videos. He made the Grip Like a Vice, Lady Flash, Rolling Blackout. So we've worked with him over the years, and he's kind of knows we're kind of totally on a wavelength sort of thing. Yeah. He had the idea of making it with a photocopier.
Oh, so really?
He went on eBay, bought a photocopier, and he filmed the band and then printed out frame by frame all the band and then sort of stuck them together. So it's literally photocopies all stuck together.
That's pretty cool.
That turned out pretty cool. Yeah, and he actually made an animation wheel thing as well. But yeah, I do make lots of the videos myself as well.
Right.
Yeah. And the video for World Remember Me Now, kind of, and I'd Be Without a Sting as well. I did those too. So I make lots of Super 8 films. I kind of film off the screen, and one thing I do is I kind of hoard films, old films, and then I watch them back kind of in fast forward until I find a shot I like, and then I film off the screen with my Super 8 camera.
A little kinescope kind of thing.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Now you mentioned To Be Without a Sting. My understanding is there's a couple of folks who are who are teenagers from Detroit. Where did you find them?
Yeah, so on the last record, Semicircle, I went over to Detroit to record with like a community choir.
Right.
And, when I was there, I met the leader of a high school choir called Mrs. Key, and so I knew that lots of the sort of soul songs I like, lots of that kind of way of singing is quite rare now, post kind of Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Everyone over sings. It's not really into that so much. I'm into much more sort of straightforward way of singing that you had on old soul songs and stuff. So I figured it would be, I like the kind of bedroomy voices. I like kind of people that wouldn't call themselves singers. I tend to go more for those sort of voices than I am a singer and I'm so good and I'm going to go through the motions of what I think singing is and I'm going to
hit every note on the way.
acrobat one off, So I knew I didn't want that. So I figured my best chance was to kind of get amateur teenage girls almost, who would have back in the day for these soul, lots of the singles that I like were amateur singers who'd just been kind of pulled off the street by a producer and then went on with their lives. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Songs I like. So basically, I did the same. I asked Mrs. Key, this choir leader, to go along to a studio in Detroit with 4 of her pupils from her choir, and one of them sort of jumped out as the right voice for the song, called Jessie Miller. And they were all never been in the studio before. Just how I like it,
Right. And how did they react to your music? Because I'm guessing, I'm assuming that they probably weren't familiar with you.
No, I don't know, actually. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to get into the mind of a modern teenager, isn't it?
It's always hard to get into a mind of a teenager.
Yeah, that's right. The reference points are so different to what we would have,
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know if it sounded retro to them or what. I don't know.
Yeah. I read somewhere where you kind of consider the Go Team still kind of like a cult band, even though you've been doing this for 20 years now. Is that a positive? Does that open you up and make things like you're not locked into something because you don't have a lot of expectations? I mean, when you get to a certain level, stuff is expected of a band and kind of can be constraining.
I just still feel like we're a kind of a secret, well-kept secret in a way. We never kind of bust through to the mainstream, but when people like us, they really like us,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I still feel like we're trying to kind of recruit people all the time, you know. And but I mean, in terms of the sound, there's so many sort of aspects to the Go Team sound. I think, you know, so many sort of sides to it that we could kind of go in quite a few different directions. But it seems like no matter what we do, there's always people always say, "Oh, it sounds like the Go Team," you know.
Right.
It's, some people just who haven't kind of been paying attention think it's the same song done over and over. I can never understand that, because, you know, for me, there's a world of difference between Get Up Sequences and Thunder Lightning Strike. You know, I don't think I could have written the songs here then, you know. But
right. But you're much closer to it than a lot of people would be. That for some who are just kind of, yeah, that has a lot to do with it, I would guess.
Yeah.
Now you have another track I wanted to talk about was Cookie Scene. It's got somebody named Indigo Yaz or Yaj. I don't know how she pronounces it. Can you tell me how that came to be?
I want everybody to feel I need broken. Yeah, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. Taking over Michigan and going out of state. Corrupt the Hollywood all the way to UK. It's the DY, it's the DYC, it's the DY, it's the DYC.
She was another one from the Detroit choir.
Oh,
so
okay.
she's one of the...
You did well in Detroit.
I know, yeah. She's one of the singers in the choir, and she raps, and I heard her rapping when I was over there, and I thought, she sounds a bit like Roxanne Shante, who's like my favourite rapper, you know. So I kind of made a note to kind of look her up when the time came. So yeah, I had this. It's quite an unusual song for a Go Team song, because, not like I said, normally they have about sort of 6 ideas in them, but this one's really quite sort of stripped back and quite sort of straight ahead. But I felt like that once the groove gets going, you don't really want to sort of interfere with it. You just want to keep it rolling along, you know.
Right.
And I kind of chucked in these kind of intergalactic laser beam noises and stuff to kind of. I've always liked that mix of kind of psychedelia with soul and kind of intergalactic-y kind of. Which often, you know, things like Bollywood songs have that kind of thing, where these random little sort of left turns and stuff, or like some, you know, Hilo Mergia, these kind of African 70s African kind of keyboard folks have lots of that kind of stuff going on as well.
Right.
Yeah, it's a strange mix of, like I said earlier, it came about from an African kalimba pattern that I kind of transposed over. But also Iko Iko by the Dixie Cups is
yeah, there you go.
Because if you listen to the beginning of it, it's kind of built from drumsticks and clapping.
Yep.
So I kind of lifted that as well. I love that. I love that kind of campfire building up syncopated pattern type thing as well. So it's kind of got this really sort of swingy groove to it. And it's also
a very New Orleans groove, isn't it? I guess.
Is it? Yeah. And also the shaker from Push It by Salt and Pepper. That kind of really loud, kind of crunchy shaker. That was kind of a thing as well. You know.
And there's a flute in there, isn't there? In that
that's the main. That's a real flute. Yeah.
Yeah, real flute.
Put it in this room. I am now.
Oh, really? And do you like working like that? Like working in a little room, like rather than a full-blown studio?
Well, you know, you don't really need much these days. You know, I did do the drums in a big studio and stuff, but you know, I kind of like the psychologically, I like bedroomy stuff. I like knowing that a song was made with limited resources and stuff, you know, rather than the sort of Coldplay. When you hear a Coldplay song, you can almost visualize the sort of residential studio of, you know, the gear and a big mixing desk, and it's all posh. And but I like the opposite of that. I'm thinking of people's bedrooms and stuff, you know.
Right. Have you been thinking about what you want to do next, or are you kind of going through and finding bits and pieces for? Yeah,
the whole process is starting again. Yeah, I had quite a few ideas. Well, a few ideas left over from the last record, so they're kind of sometimes I'll have a section. I'll think, oh, I desperately need a verse for it or something, and it will just sort of sit on the back burner until. But yeah, the whole process is starting again. You know, I'm listening to lots of records and.
How much time per day do you listen to a record? To listen to records?
All day.
All day. I love it. Well, you can tell I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And what about the live thing? Is there anything happening as far as
next
not
year?
playing in front of people?
We've got 2 babies. Two of the girls in the group have had babies, Ninja and Nia.
Right.
With 2 more on the way as well.
Oh boy.
So
that'll slow things down.
It would have naturally been a quiet time. We couldn't have toured now anyway because of the babies situation. Right. But I think at the end of next year, we're doing a festival in LA next May, I believe. And then we're doing, towards the back end of next year, we'll be back in action again, I hope. But yeah.
And do you find that the music you make is kind of regional, is more popular in one part of the world than another?
I don't know, really.
Does it work like that?
I don't know. We're not sort of massive anywhere, really, but we're kind of a cult band. You know, Australia did get into us quite early.
Right.
They kind of latched onto it pretty early, but they've kind of died away. But I think America, we've always done all right in Japan, America, yeah.
Have you been to New Zealand?
We've only played there once, I believe, on the big day out.
Oh, one of the big day out.
Yeah. I think, yeah. Pretty sure we've only played once. But what was I going to say?
You have any other dates besides the ones in LA?
No, yes, we might be doing a little mini American tour. Yeah.
And what does it? How does this stuff translate on stage when you play it in front of people?
It's chaos. I mean, I like the idea of chaos on stage, and we're all quite different people,
right?
And we move in different ways. Like me and Sam are kind of from a noise guitar background, so it's kind of, you know, noise. It's kind of a bit noisier on stage.
Right.
We have drum kits and there's 6 of us on stage and we're all look and move differently and samples going on. You know, there's lots going on, you know.
It sounds like it's
not exactly a perfect carbon copy of the record, but it's
well, nobody wants that. That's no. Like, I mean, you go to see the Eagles or Fleetwood Mac these days and it just sounds just like the record. It's like, well, I could have done that at home.
So, yeah. But it's much more about Ninja live.
Right.
She's like a force of nature, you know, like she's like a black female Iggy Pop or something, you know, she really goes for it. You know, She really puts everything into it. And we all do really, you know, that's an unspoken thing from the outset, is that it was an excuse just to jump around, you know. Recording and writing is quite sort of about this, you know, it's kind of quite detailed, but live more like that. It's like, you know.
So do you miss doing the live thing? Because I don't think you've done it.
Yeah. Particularly, I don't know if you heard, I lost my hearing in my
right ear. Yeah. How's that coming along?
Well, it's still
You're probably sick of talking about it. So
it's still gone. You know, it's not going to come back. But the accompanying dizziness that comes with it isn't too bad at the minute, so I think I'll be fine. But
that's good, because it wasn't from being around loud music, was it?
No, it's just bad luck, really. Unbelievable. I know. It kind of took me out of action for a while there, you know, just the sort of shock of it, you know.
Sure.
Because all I do is listen, you know what I mean? All I do is...
It sounds like it, yeah.
Why couldn't it happen to that bloke down the road, you know what I mean? It's like... unbelievable. But, you know, the trick is just to kind of keep going and not let it affect you, really, you know. I think people expected me to, when they hear that, think I would pour that into the music somehow and it'd be kind of like earnest and
right.
It's
probably the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know how you'd do that. I don't know. I mean, I've never actively set out to make kind of happy music, particularly. It just seems to be this weird byproduct. And I don't even use words like happy or upbeat or particularly. I think of it more as like action packed or I don't know, kind of trying to keep your attention all the time, you know. And I think the byproduct of that is this happy word, you know what I mean? But,
yeah. Well, when you have the horns bopping around, it kind of gets that no matter what, you know. What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't explain it. You know, I can't. It seems to be something I can't shake off. It's quite a weird problem to have, you know.
Oh, well, worse things could happen. Anyway, well, thank you for spending time talking to me about it all, because it's fascinating, and glad you can still listen to your records as much as you want to, because that's key, obviously.
Yeah. Keep on keeping on.
Yes. Well, come on down here if you get a chance. We'd love to. We're kind of wide open these days, but you just have to kind of go in quarantine for a couple of weeks. But there you go.
So,
okay. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.